Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? Yes, it is that time of the week again. It is podcast time. And man, we got a badass show ready to go. I'm a poet and didn't even know it. Look at me go. But yeah, we're going to be talking college football, kind of a continuation of last week's show, if you will. If we do have time, we will get into some NFL stuff, but I have a feeling our time here today will be mostly college talk. It's rivalry week, and yes, that is hard to say. But we had some big games, some big upsets, but on the other hand, some big wins. So I can't wait to get into that. We do have some news to go over first, but before we get into that, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time to watch these videos, watch us. So wherever you're at, whether you're on TikTok, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, please give us a like, please give us a follow. And if you're on the audio side, you guys are the OGs. Please give us a follow over there and give us a 5-star rating so we can shoot up those rankings. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into some news here, 2K crew. Let's see here. Where are we at? Here we go. Here's some news. Speaking of viewers and everything like that, we crossed a threshold here. Over 300,000 views on YouTube. So that's awesome. Thank you guys and gals. Thank you for everything. Who would have thought that 300,000 different sets of eyes would be on this face? Not me. Not me at all. So that is completely awesome. But to some real news, there was a hiring at Stanford. This is from Pete Thamel over on Twitter. Former Stanford star Andrew Luck is returning to the Cardinal to become the football program's general manager, Luck told ESPN. Luck has accepted a new role at Stanford, which will place him above the entire program and its distinct evolution from the traditional college GM. So basically, he's going to be looking over the whole program. I kind of have a feeling we're going to see this become more normal as we move forward with the NIL. But kudos to Andrew Luck. Was a shame that his career was cut short. Kind of purposefully. You know, it was on his decision. It wasn't injuries like we've seen with a lot of other players. But man, he was an all-timer, an all-time gamer, just a football dude. And it's always sad to see a football dude go out like that, but it's good to see him back. I mean, we've seen him kind of do a couple interviews here and there through the last year or so, but he's been, ever since he retired, just kind of stepped away. I think he continued to get his master's or doctorate or some shit like that from Stanford, and then been pursuing that. So kudos to him. Kudos to him. That is absolutely awesome. But that's all the news I have. I don't have any. I wish I could sit here and have news that Juan Soto has signed with the Red Sox, but that is not the case. That is not the case yet. So once that, I'm sure every media outlet, whether it be ESPN or anything online, is going to explode as soon as he signs with anybody. But I have a very good feeling it is going to be my Red Sox. So I can't wait for that. Cannot wait for that. If you're watching, tell me where you think he's going to sign and how much. Because one of the main things here is that that is not the right one. Oh, well. This is the right one. There we go. Got to get on the news thing. But let me know where he's going to sign, how much he's going to sign, because what we've kind of gathered is that it's the Yankees are out. The Yankees weren't able to provide the money in years that he's looking for. I believe the Dodgers are out just because he isn't looking to defer any money, which is kind of going against the norm. It seems like everyone's deferring money in the MLB, so it's good to see someone kind of push back on that. And yeah, it's down to the Red Sox and Mets, I believe. And the Mets, their owners come out and said that, hey, any offer that comes out, we're going to slap 50 more mil on top of it. So kind of keep that in your back pocket. So does he go to the Mets just to be and one of the main things too is what's been rumored is that he wants to be the guy. And if you're getting paid that much, you really should be the guy. That's kind of common sense speaking here, but you kind of should be the guy if you're getting paid that much. But with the Yankees, it'll always be Judge's team because he is the captain. And in LA, there's many superstars. Think we can all agree that it's Shohei's team at this point. But Mookie was kind of the first big superstar to go over there via trade. So who knows with that? But with the Red Sox, he could walk in and be the guy day one. Devers is there. He's been the highest paid player so far. But when it comes to actual leadership stuff, he's not the, grab the team by the reins and, just give them the pep talk in the dugout. So yeah, it seems like ownership is actually going to open the pocketbook this winter where they haven't the past couple. So hopefully that means we're landing someone big and hopefully more than one. So that's kind of my baseball talk for today, but y'all didn't come here for the baseball talk. You came here for the college football playoff talk. We had the game. Michigan going down to the Horseshoe in Ohio State. And like I was telling the TikTok folks, I really wish 2Ks would have been here. He's obviously the resident Michigan fan, but I happen to live with one. So when it comes to when it comes to Michigan games, We tend to watch most of them, if not all of them. But this was a weird one. This was a weird one because we had for lack of better words, a lackluster Michigan squad going up against a heavily paid and heavily favored Ohio State squad. And I believe at one point they were 23.5-point favorites. It did get down, I believe, towards game time to 19.5, but I think at some point in the week was 23.5. Either way, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. And there's a lot of Ohio State folks having very different reactions to this. There's a pretty unanimous Michigan response, which is kind of what I expected when it came to this. But on top of that, there was a lot of post-game things that happened, a lot of emotions that kind of spilled into everything. So let's kind of jump. Let's start the day out there, just because it was a noon game, so why not start there? Let's see here. Let's go to the box score, just so I can refresh my memory here. Now, it's been said and proven that the winner of this game is the one that rushes for the most yards. I believe it's like 20 of the last 22 or something. The winner has had the most rushing yards, and Michigan had almost 100 more rushing yards than Ohio State, 173 to 77. Mullings had a day. He was by far the best player on either side. Whether Michigan or Ohio State, he was the best player on the field, period. End of story. End of story. And big kudos to Michigan's offensive line, Michigan's defensive line, because that offensive line, they could run the ball pretty much at will. And the defensive line pretty much bottled up everything that Ohio State threw at them. And this was a 10-10 ball game going into half. Ended up Michigan winning 13-10. And I believe I heard a stat on the SV pod on the way over here that Ohio State didn't get a first down in the last 20 minutes of this game. I believe what it was, which is absolutely insane. Is absolutely insane, and just a kudos to that Michigan defense, because if you look at all of these shiny toys that Ryan Day has to has at his disposal, you would think that getting first downs would not come as hard as it did in the second half of this game. Now, on the flip side, Ohio State's defense, you got to tip your hat to them as well. Yes, this Michigan offense is not a very high-flying offense, is not a highfalutin offense. It's a run first, run second, run third, pass when we need to offense. Just because, the quarterback play has been terrible all year. They've played 3 quarterbacks. Both of them made an appearance, or two of the 3 made an appearance yesterday because one of them actually retired. But neither one are really going to, I'm not going to say aren't going to be there next year. I believe Davis Warren is his eligibility is done. Alex Orji, I believe, will still have some eligibility left. Will he stay? I'm completely unsure about that, but they have the number 1 recruit coming in. The number 1 recruit, thanks to the second richest man in the world, as well as Dave Portnoy. So we'll see where that goes from there, but that's a different topic for another day. But this Michigan didn't have their number 1 receiver, their tight end. He was hurt. Ohio State had all of theirs. And whether you're talking about Ibuka, Smith, any one of these guys that, are very highly paid at Ohio State, the total receiving, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players caught balls from Will Howard yesterday for 175 yards, Jeremiah Smith did get in the end zone, and we all know hopefully he'll be back because he is going to be a stud. That kid is a stud. But overall, this played exactly into Michigan's hands. A ground and pound. We control the flow of the game. We control the tempo of the game. This is the game Michigan wanted to play. If Ohio State is going up and down the field scoring, this Michigan offense is not built, is not capable. That is not their forte, to play from behind and try to keep up with a very high-paced offense like this Ohio State offense should be. So defense set the tone, and the offense did just enough, is basically what happened. And Sharon Moore comes away with a big win, and I believe this is 4 straight for Michigan, and Ryan Day is now 1-4 against the school up north. So where did this, in as far as the college football playoff, I still believe Ohio State's going to be in. There is definitely a path for them at, just having 2 losses. And this is what rivalry week is all about. Throw the record books out. 60 minutes. Let's go. Let's have a day, and let's just leave it all out on the field. I mean, that is exactly what happened. And kind of the caveat to this is what happened after the game. Yeah, I think we can. I think by now we've all seen. I've seen many video from different angles, different times, as to what exactly happened post game with this game. And I think from what I gathered, in 2K Crew, if I'm wrong, please correct me. It kind of all started with I honestly I thought it started prior to them trying to plant the flag at the 50. And by them, I mean Michigan planting their flag on the 50. And I thought tensions were high, and there was this stuff leading up to that, and then it kind of died down, and then it picked back up when all of that started to happen. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're both. It's just a continuation of everything. But at the end of the day, and I'm not going to sit here and say one team was right, one team was wrong. Because once we saw this happen at Michigan, we saw it at Ohio State. We saw this happen 3, if not 4 other times across the country, with different teams trying to plant flags at the opponent's 50-yard line. And I think ultimately you really don't want to see that. And I can't remember who it had to be Mullings from Michigan that they interviewed post game, and he said, well, this fighting really isn't what this game is all about. We just quote unquote fought for 60 minutes, and now all of a sudden you really, really want to fight after the game. And again, was watching with my wife, and I said, well, thankfully at the Horseshoe, it's not like Spartan Stadium where both teams have to go down the same tunnel to get to the locker rooms. If they did, the officer, because there's like 50 officers that made a human wall, for lack of better terms, so that these teams would separate. There was pepper spray that was instituted in said skirmish, because I really don't want to call it a brawl. Yes, there were punches thrown, but if you're talking about a brawl with that many dudes, that many big dudes, athletic dudes, a brawl is something that kind of gets out of control. Did this kind of have the little makings of a brawl? Yes, but in the end, it was, let's just call it a skirmish, if you will. And I'm not going to sit here and point fingers and say this side was right, this side was wrong. It honestly shouldn't have happened. And I know this goes back to the whole Baker Mayfield doing it at the Horseshoe. I get that, but how long has Baker Mayfield been in the NFL? Quite a long time. I get why it's cool. I do. But it's one of those things you got to pick and choose, I guess. Either to me it's silly. It's just silly. For one, You're trying to plant a flag on artificial turf. It's not like you're sticking it in the ground. Okay, maybe I'm missing something, and believe me, I'm not trying to sit here and hate on it. I just it at least when they're tearing down the goalpost in a huge upset, I get that. I could see the fun in that. I could see the fun in that. But as far as planting the flag, I mean, you're asking for trouble. You're asking for a response. You're asking for basically what happened these handful of times yesterday. So, like I said, am I going to sit here and be the moral police and say this shouldn't happen? These boys should know what's right and wrong. No, I get it. It's right. You've been rivals forever. You've been rivals forever. I completely understand the intent behind it. I understand that, this is the day that these two squads have been training for the entire year is yesterday. Which kind of brings me to one of my other points is, yes, rivals. I get it. You circle the date on the schedule as soon as it comes out. You follow them as, almost as hard as you follow yourself. But what kind of throws me for a loop here, 2K crew, and please tell me if I'm wrong, is that I saw so many people on Twitter, Ohio State fans, I shouldn't say people, Ohio State fans say even if they win the national championship, this year doesn't mean anything because you lost to Michigan. Am I completely off base in saying that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard? Like, am I honestly in the dark here? Yes, I'm as a Notre Dame fan. If we lost to USC and still won the national championship, who cares? A natty's a natty. Did we lose to our rival? Sure. But and maybe maybe there is no Notre Dame equivalent to this Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. Maybe that's the disconnect that I'm having, which is possibly true. Which is why I'm asking the question to you: is if you're an Ohio State fan, if you win the national championship this year, is 2024 a waste? Because you lost 3 or 4 years in a row now to Michigan. One of your 2 losses on the season. Is this still, I mean, to me, a national championship is a success. Like I said, maybe Notre Dame doesn't have that equivalent. I don't know. But just kind of a weird point to have. Just a weird point to have. I do have some tweets about Ryan Day because, as you can imagine, the rumor mills are churning already. From what I see, it's about half and half. 2K crew, to be honest with you, half Ohio State fans want Ryan Day fired, and half want to keep him. I have a feeling that the half that want him fired were the same half that wanted him fired after last year. So ultimately, does Ohio State fire Ryan Day? And prior to coming on, I did see a message. I did see an alert come on my phone saying that Ryan Day has met with the athletic director at Ohio State already. So what does that mean for his employment? What does this mean for the team? I think we're just going to have to wait and see. Because like I said, this team still could win the national championship. So firing him right now really doesn't make any sense. Unless you are the half that want him gone because you didn't want him here all this year. Has he been a good coach this year? Not really. And I have a feeling that with that crew of players, maybe under a different coaching staff, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I don't know. But let's take a look at a couple of these tweets here. This is from Sam Block over at the Block Spot on Twitter. Ryan Day falls to 66-10 at Ohio State. Firing him would be a terrible decision. And what we're going to see here, there is the reason why folks want to retain him is because of what he's built up to this point. This is a very highly paid roster. I mean, this was the $20 million roster. It's not they didn't make a secret about it. They didn't hem-haw around about it. They didn't. I mean, this was excuse me. It was very highly publicized. The payroll of this team. And he has the number 3 recruit coming to Ohio State. So you're going to have Michigan's number 1 quarterback and Ohio State's number 3 quarterback going against each other for the next 3 or 4 years. And what does that mean moving forward? I don't know. But I have a very good feeling that at this point, if Ohio State decides to move away from Ryan Day, you're going to get a flip by that kid. And he's going to want no part of Ohio State. But the half that wanted him gone last year and continue to want him gone say, we don't care. We honestly don't care. And let's take a look at another one here. This is from Ohio v. World. Excuse my language, but some of y'all are retarded, man. You get rid of Day, this program dies. Players leave, recruits leave, coaches leave, the ship sinks. Bunch of spoiled fucks. Jim started out 0-5. We're in a slump. Slumps happen in this rivalry. And I think Ohio v. World here brings up a very good point, because this was the same scenario going back to, Jim Harbaugh can't win the big one. For the first 3 years, he couldn't beat Ohio State and Michigan State. We finally knocked off Michigan State. And then went a couple more years before he was able to knock off Ohio State. And once he did, rattled off 3 straight. And now that freshman class has never lost to Ohio State. And I honestly think, 2K crew, speaking of Jim Harbaugh, I think even without being there, he is still mind-fucking the shit out of this whole entire Ohio State roster, staff, everyone surrounding the program. I think his lasting effect is still being felt in Columbus. I honestly do. And the reason I say that is, if you go back and look at how those Harbaugh teams beat those Ohio State teams, there were 2 of them where they shouldn't even been in the same building, like yesterday. And Ohio State had the far superior athletes, like yesterday. And Harbaugh found a way to do it. And for all of we've talked a little bit here about Ryan Day being fired. There was clamorings that Sherrone Moore should have been fired. It should be fired at the end of the season. And that is complete. And I told you guys and gals 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were talking about that you guys are asinine. You're asinine for A, even thinking that, and B, thinking that the university would move off of him so quickly. Especially after, yes, Jim Harbaugh brings a better coaching resume with him when he came to Michigan. So maybe he was granted a little bit more leeway. I get that. But Michigan, Brady Hoke had way longer than 1 year. And if you're trying to tell me that Sherrone Moore is a worse coach than Brady Hoke, you're out of your fucking mind. You're out of your mind. Brady Hoke was a terrible hire for Michigan. Terrible. I think Sherrone Moore is the right guy for right now. Could he end up being there for 10, 15, 20 years? Sure. He brings the same atmosphere, the same program, the same everything that Harbaugh had. And he has one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, probably in the world. Dude was just in the NFL last year. Wink Martindale is, by all means, should be an NFL DC, not a college DC. So To me, with this Michigan team, we talked about it the last couple weeks. It comes down to quarterback play, and Davis Warren went 9 for 16 for 62 yards and 2 interceptions. If you would have read me that line and not told me anything else, I would have told you that Ohio State won by 40. I mean, just hands down. But this Michigan team found a way to win. They found a way to win. I do have one more tweet here. This is from College Football Report over on Twitter. Ryan Day, 1-4 versus Michigan. 23.5-point favorites at home against a 6-5 Michigan team. No Colston Loveland, Donovan Edwards, or Will Johnson. It's never going to be easier than this. You're done. And the College Football Report brings up a very good point. Very good point. This was a walking, wounded, and not very good Michigan team. So if there ever was some low-hanging fruit for this Ohio State squad, it was yesterday. It was yesterday by all means. And I think, obviously we saw that with the spread, 23.5. I mean, that's pretty much, we think this team is going to win and win by a lot. And I have a feeling if you look at where the money was betting wise, I would have guessed that most of the money would have been on Ohio State, even with that big number. We saw last week where Michigan was able to hang a lot of points. And in my mind, I'm like, that not even against a Northwestern team, I believe it was. I mean, come on. There's no way that, that was a stepping stone and they lose Loveland in that game. And I mean, it's all over the place. There's no way that they could have brought momentum from that game to this game. Well, the defense did. Because I believe the defense shut them out. Shut them out last week and gave up 10 points in the first half this week. So maybe they did. But regardless, Michigan is going bowling. I mean, it's not a total loss of a season. But one thing I do have for you, Michigan fans, getting back to the skirmish at the end of the game, I saw a picture that I thought was super cool. And even being a Notre Dame fan, I thought this was super cool. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. It's going to be, hopefully it's going to be full screen. So if you want it, if you got your phone sideways, screenshot it. It's quite possibly one of the best photos of the year. And for those of you over on TikTok, look up the Michigan special teams guys doing the OHIO during the skirmish, like we talked about. But yeah, I figured I'd give you Michigan fans a little present there if you hadn't seen it already, or if you just want it bigger than what it was on any other social media. So there you go. Screenshot that. Have a good one. All right, so we've pretty much picked and prodded the Michigan Ohio State game to death. But I wanted to show you this tweet here. Where is it? It's probably all the way at the bottom. What is this one? Oh, yeah. This is another one, just to kind of put a bow on it. This is from Ryan Ermani at RyanEF Fox 2 over on Twitter. Being classy seems to be a theme on this platform tonight. Just a reminder, Ohio State scored a touchdown last week against Indiana out of victory formation. Friggin' spare me the lecture. Some say it's karma. Some say it's karma. Quite possibly. Quite possibly. I have no idea what I did with that tweet. It's like, oh, here it is. This is a tweet from us. This was a tweet from us Friday, I believe. This Georgia Tech game is fucking wild. Got the weekend started off with a bang. Yeah, that was Friday. In 8 overtimes, Georgia wins 44-42. And like we talked about last week, we could have a whole discussion on the overtime rules in college football because right now it is what it is. I mean, is it awesome? No. Does it start off awesome? I think the ultimate fix is if you really want to do this, instead of starting from the 25, start from like the 45 or the 50 and just do it that way. And then at that point, you don't start off in scoring position. So right now it's 25. That's a chip shot, even if you down it 3 times and then kick a field goal. At least at the 50, you still have to run some sort of offense to get into field goal position. And I have a very good feeling you will not see this. 8 overtimes. Georgia moves on. Georgia survives. Old Miss wins the Egg Bowl 26-14 against Mississippi State. Oregon, Washington. Oregon pretty much just decimates Washington 29-21. Texas A&M. I did want to spend a little time on this one. This was a weird game to watch. Texas's running game was very, very good. The passing game wasn't electric. Ewers threw for 218 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. I think what this game really comes down to is there was a lot of play calling from A&M that both myself and some of the other folks that I've talked to are like, what are they doing? And it's very rare that I would even question what Mike Elko's doing, just because of his pedigree, his background, and it was just weird. And again, another low scoring game. And I must admit, I did take Texas A&M plus 5.5 on this one. So I was kind of hoping that score would be a little bit closer. But nonetheless, 17-7. We did see Arch come in. Arch had three carries, 14 yards, and a touchdown, and quite possibly one of the biggest mean mugs to his boys I've ever seen. So that was pretty awesome. And moving forward in the college football playoff, whoever Texas is playing might want to get ready for more Arch, because I have a feeling that Texas does have a package that involves him a lot more than what they're using him right now. So it probably would behoove whoever is going to play them to get ready for both cats. Excuse me. But yeah, this was, like I said, this game could have went either way. Texas didn't score in the second half. So definitely this game was definitely in either team's hands. But we saw, like I said, the play calling for Texas A&M was very baffling. So kudos to Texas, and again, a big win, securing them into I guess even going after the win last week, they secured their seat in the ACC the SEC playoff. Penn State handles Maryland, so now with the Ohio State loss, they move into that number 2 spot in the Big Ten, and will play Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Miami goes down to Syracuse. Syracuse puts together one hell of a third quarter, scoring 21 points. And even if you watch College Game Day, when they were doing their picks for this game, they said that Miami needs to jump out to a large lead. They need to punch Syracuse in the mouth. And this being played in Syracuse, I think gave the Cuse a little bit more motivation here. And this Miami defense is terrible. It's terrible. the games that they have lost have been because of that defense. Let's take a quick peek at the box score here. Kyle McCord, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Cam Ward, 349, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So great quarterback play from both dudes. Like I said, this Miami team reminds me a lot of like the Bengals team that we're watching now, where their defense gives up way too many points and the quarterback just keeps slanging it and slanging it and slanging it, and they just get outscored. I mean, that's hands down what it is. So I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to leave Miami. They went into the weekend at number 6. How far does this drop them after their second loss? But kudos to Kyle McCord and the Qs for giving a big upset there. And let's keep cruising. Notre Dame gets a big win against USC. My Fighting Irish, big win. Not going to lie, this game was uncomfortable. This game was uncomfortable. Now, Notre Dame pretty much led the entire game. They either led or tied because it was 14-14 going into half. Notre Dame gets the kick to start the second half, marches down the field, scores a touchdown. USC takes the kick, goes down, scores a touchdown. Thankfully, Notre Dame had a big second half, scoring 21 in the third and 14 in the fourth. But the offense just couldn't get things clicking in the fourth. I mean, this was a game that, yes, Jeremiah Love went out in the early in the second half, and USC, their what was his name? Marks? Yeah. Woody Marks, he went out very early in the first half. So both starting running backs were gone, just essentially by halftime. And what was weird is that at points in the second half, it's like, okay, I understand that even though SC gave up 49 points, that defense played a whole lot better than what I was expecting. And even going back to last year when they had Caleb Williams, this was a blowout by Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense made Caleb Williams look ridiculous, and that was kind of some of the knocks going into him, or going into draft. The draft with him was he looked silly against this Notre Dame defense. Now this year's Notre Dame defense is even better than last year's, and Jaden Malava carved them up, 360, 3 touchdowns, but the big kicker, 2 interceptions, not only 2 interceptions, 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter to kind of put this game away. And if you did not watch the game it was late in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame's up by 7, and USC's driving down. They're within the 20. Jaden throws his first interception, which is a pick 6 going 93 yards. No, it's 99 yards. And then the ensuing drive throws another one that gets taken back. Xavier Watts caught the ball in the end zone and returned it for a touchdown, kind of putting the game on ice. And for whatever reason, USC just runs the ball down and scores again. You could definitely see Al Golden was not happy with his defense when it came to that. But all in all, a very good game. This was a win or go home. So I'm really curious to see, if Notre Dame does get that 5th seed in the playoff, because that would absolutely be awesome. But I have a very good feeling that the college football playoff is going to go through South Bend in some form or fashion, regardless of what, if we get the 5th or the 6th seed. But there will be a playoff game in South Bend, which is going to be awesome. And speaking of which, the game's going to be in 2 weeks, so weather's going to be cold, quite possibly snow in South Bend. And from what we saw the weather Saturday in South Bend, bet you the boys were glad they were at USC. Tennessee beats Vandy. SMU gets a big win against Cal. Indiana puts it on Purdue. Poor Purdue with their one win, 66-0. South Carolina upsets Clemson. Did want to take a quick second with that one. The South Carolina team's legit, and ironically enough, Clemson will play for the ACC title, even though because the South Carolina game was not a conference game, so that they're in that. Alabama beats Auburn. Arizona State, another hot team right now, beats Arizona 49-7. So yeah, it was definitely some good football. But yeah, what was your favorite game over the weekend? And was it your team? Was it another team? I'm curious to see, because that Texas Tech game, or excuse me, Texas A&M game was awesome. Like I said, definitely some weird play calling on the A&M side, but it was pretty badass to watch. So let's take a peek at the the championship weekend. We get the weekend started Saturday at noon. Iowa State at Arizona State for the Big 12, I believe. We've got Ohio University at Miami of Ohio for the MAC. At 4 o'clock, Georgia at Texas. Rematch at 4 o'clock. Big 10 kicks off at 8 o'clock. Penn State at Oregon. And the ACC, Clemson at SMU. Now let's talk about some spreads here, because there's one of these games where it's completely lopsided. And I think with the doing away of the Big Ten with the East and West, the leaders and leaders, or whatever the hell it was called, we're not seeing that, powerhouse Oregon team against Wisconsin, that they won the West. This is what it should be. The top two teams play, so we don't get just that absolute dog walk. In the Mountain West, I believe it is, UNLV against Boise State. That game's on Friday. Spreads Boise State -3.5. Iowa State, Arizona State. That's at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. ASU -2.5. Georgia at Texas in Atlanta. At the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Texas, -2.5. -2.5. So we'll see if they can get some redemption over the Dogs. Penn State, Oregon is at Lucas Oil. And Indy, Oregon is a -3.5 favorite. And SMU, Clemson is down in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium with SMU -2.5. And out of any one of these, I think I would have to take the Oregon -3.5, even though it is the largest one. I mean, it's tied with the Boise line, but I honestly think I'm leaning more heavily towards that one than any of the other ones. And yes, call me gun shy for not even that. Texas, Georgia, Texas -2.5. I think with that, I would actually give me the points. I'm taking Georgia and the points on that one. Because Kirby Smart, yeah, that's call me gun shy, but they made that Texas team look ridiculous when they played the first time. Absolutely ridiculous. And everyone on any social media that had, that I took Texas the first time, completely told me I was wrong many, 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 many times. And one of our TikTok videos, I think I was told I was wrong, stupid, and a moron about 400, maybe 500 times, which is okay. because obviously those people have never gotten a pick wrong. Never, ever, ever in their lives. So, but yeah, that's where I'm leaning. That's where I'm leaning. If you want my big take of the week, is give me Oregon -3.5. And let's see, if you want my picks for all four, give me Arizona State -2.5. Not super thrilled with that one, but I am thankful it's not more. Like I said, give me Georgia +2.5 for the SEC. Oregon -3.5 for the Big Ten, and give me SMU -2.5 in the ACC. And honestly, with that, with that SMU -2.5 with Clemson losing this week, I would honestly grab, if you want SMU, I would grab that 2.5 now. So I think I have a very good feeling that one's going to climb. That one's going to climb. Well, yeah, we got one more week of football before the absolute final. The absolute final college football selection show. And before we get out of that, I did want to, let's take a peek at last week's, where is it at? AP 25. This is last week's. Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, SMU, Indiana. So let's take a flip at what it changed to today. And yes, I found a bigger graphic, which is awesome. Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State drops to 7. SMU moves up to 8. Indiana moves up to 9. Boise moves up. Alabama 11. Arizona State 12. South Carolina 13. Miami drops to 14. Ole Miss up to 15. So definitely some movement. It's good to see Army back in the top 25. Shout out to those boys. Colorado moves up to 20 after their big win, which they have officially been eliminated. Obviously, we saw who's playing for the Big 12, but that conference seemed to be up in the air, and anyone could grab it. Pretty much all season. So that kind of wraps up the top 25. Now I did want to, because we haven't talked a lot about Heisman. We haven't talked a lot about the Heisman. If you remember going back to our way too early picks, I took Imam quarterback for Tennessee. I know I'm going to butcher his name right now. And I can't remember who 2Ks took. But at that time, Genty really wasn't on anyone's radar. And boy, oh boy, has he become on everyone's radar. I saw a video of him working out yesterday prior to the game. Oh my God. That guy is huge. I mean, like Derrick Henry type huge. Probably not as tall, but man, dude's got muscles on muscles, man. Geez, oh Pete. And he has kind of been, for the first part of the season was the pretty much favorite to go into this. And then Travis Hunter began to distance himself as far as the betting world is concerned. And after yesterday's game, where I believe he had 2 touchdowns and another interception, and I've went on the record saying that he's the best player in all of college football this year. It's not even a question. And I do believe he does deserve the Heisman. And for the folks that are not going to vote for him because of who his coach is, I think is absolutely ridiculous, because this is a talent that we may never see again. Yes, we're going to see receivers that are better than him. Yes, we're going to see defensive backs that are better than him. But it's not every year or every day we see an athlete be this good on both sides of the ball and just be dominant. Just be dominant. And again, for folks that are not going to vote for him based on who his coach is, or who the quarterback of his team is, I think you're doing your vote in the entire college football fandom a very big disservice. Because who his coach is should have nothing to do with his performance on the field. And like we talked about before, once it gets draft time, whichever team takes him, I have a very good feeling they're not going to allow him to play both sides. So how are you going to draft him? Are you going to draft him as a corner and have a package for him on offense? I think that's the easiest way. Or are you just going to have him play just offense? It's going to be a catch, not a catch-22, but a very interesting situation. And just to kind of let everyone know where the Heisman odds are, this is coming from FanDuel. Travis Hunter is minus 10,000. Minus 10,000. Ashton Jeanty is plus 2,300. Dylan Gabriel plus 50,000. Along with Curtis Rourke from Indiana, Jaden Milroe from Alabama, and Travis's quarterback, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. All of those gentlemen are plus 50,000. Like I said, I firmly believe and think that Travis Hunter deserves this award, but the better in me got the better of me. Say that 10 times fast. I did sprinkle a little bit on Jeanty just because there are a whole hell of a lot of people online screaming at the top of their lungs that Jeanty is the best player in the country. And if you look at the Heisman as the MVP of college football, if you take Ashton Jeanty off of Boise State, they might win 3 or 4 games. If you take Travis Hunter off Colorado, they would still be over 500. So if you look at it that way, that kind of was like, well, let me take a peek and see where the odds are. Maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit. And I saw it was plus 2,300. I'm like, okay, that's worth the sprinkle. That is. Anytime there's this big of a favorite, especially when there's an argument to be had. And I completely understand the argument for Jeanty getting this award. I really do. And mainly, the main argument I see is if Jeanty doesn't win it, there's never going to be a running back win it again. And I think we're kind of all in the consensus to where this is a quarterback award. And when we get kind of this hybrid player like Travis Hunter is, something that we don't see every season, especially at the level that he's at. And there's so many people that are like, well, he doesn't, it's the Big 12. They stink. He wouldn't be able to do that in the SEC. He wouldn't be able to do that in the Big 10. We'll never know. And I think, too, it takes a very special coach and coaching staff to coach a player like that. Not every coach is going to want to let this kid play both sides of the ball, all the snaps. I mean, we're looking at a very unique situation. And a very unique situation in a very unique player. So I think it's awesome that Coach Prime has let him do this. And I think he has done it awesomely. And like I said, when it comes draft time, the team that's going to draft him is going to have a decision to make. Because at the NFL, they don't even want punters to place kick or place kickers to be punters. I have a very good feeling they're not going to let Travis Hunter play every single offensive snap and every single defensive snap in the NFL, which I think is going to be good for him because he'll be able to kind of focus on that one thing and get extraordinarily good at that one thing instead of just being very good. So he's a talent like we haven't seen a talent like this. And for all of you that are like, well, Charles Woodson was a dual threat player. No, not like this. Not like this. I will argue that back and forth. Not like this. Charles Woodson was a very good DB. He was a very good returner. But as far as playing every snap on offense, no. Having this many touchdowns on offense, no. Nope, you're missing the boat on for me with that argument. I'm sorry. Two totally different athletes. And I think what Woodson did kind of laid the groundwork for this. I'll give him credit for that. But as far as we've seen this before, no, we haven't. So I'm very excited to see where this goes. Kind of keep an eye on these lines because Travis Hunter, his day is done until the bowl game. Genty still has some more football to play. So is he going to be able to close that gap and make it a little bit more respectable? Or not? Respectable is the wrong word. Is he going to close the odds because he is continuing to play? We shall see. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, is to kind of keep an eye on these odds, because I have a very good feeling that if the odds worsen for Genty, that completely takes him out of the race, and he had a very shitty conference championship game and or a very shitty game in the playoff, which from everything that we've led up to, he hasn't had a game like that. So I really don't expect that to happen. But if he continues to have great game after great game after great game, and this Boise team actually makes some noise in the playoffs, I'd be curious to see what that number does. So it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. But like I said, plus 2,300 was enough for me to at least sprinkle a little bit on. 2K crew, that is all that I have to get into for tonight. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Yes, we do have to go back to work tomorrow, which stinks. But on the other hand, especially when you're in sales like me, it's more of a chance to make some money. So everyone have a great week. I will see you all next week, hopefully with 2Ks in tow. I will see you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.